Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is resignation. It's a very insidious state of being, and I want to talk about it because I recognize that it seems to be sort of when I'm at a low. That's a space that I go to and or have gone to in the past, and I was evaluating it, and I just thought it would be really interesting to share because I don't think I'm the only one. So before we get started, let's just take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, and bringing vital life energy. And as you exhale, exhale any stress, any tension, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting up your cells, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your molecules, all your electrons, and lighting you up from the inside out. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining stress and tension, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation and to bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, resignations. I've told you guys that I'm going to be going to a Joe Dispenza advanced week-long retreat, and prior to attending the event, we have all kinds of homework to listen to and do a bunch of different meditations. And one of the exercises from this morning um, was, I think, really powerful. And it's not that I hadn't done it before. I did, in fact. Good morning, Roslyn. Welcome, welcome. At work, we might be going back to the office mid-June, telecommuting coming to an end. Wow. Wow, that's kind of a banner moment, right? That's huge transition to be going back to work. Wow. Welcome, Tammy. Good morning. So that's big news, Rosalind. Congratulations, Tammy and Rosalind both. It's great to have you here and great to be here with everybody else who's joining us. We're talking today about resignation, and so I was talking about this exercise in this morning in my homework for the Joe Dispenza intensive, and what the exercise was to become aware of a negative emotion that you want to change, like something that's kind of at the root of your being. And it was a revelation to me. Good morning, Lisa. Welcome, welcome. It was a revelation to me because I've been feeling kind of like a pit of the stomach feeling for a while. And so in this exercise, I got to look at it more deeply. And I came up with a variety of different words. And then the word that came up that kind of epitomized it was this resignation on a very deep level, a very old feeling, like resigned to things not working out ultimately, which you're here with me a lot. I don't live in that space of believing that things aren't going to work out. This is like a really old pattern. And I recognized it, like when things turn south or when things go bad, quote unquote, because that's all interpretation. We all know this. But when things take a turn and present challenges, whether they be financial or they be health wise or challenges in life, that I noticed that there is this very, very old pattern that comes up, and it's the word that found for it that I think is really accurate is resignation. So I started looking at, because in this exercise, the question was, what's an emotion you want to change, a pattern that you want to change and release? And part of that exercise was also to look at, well, when you're feeling this emotion, how do you act? What are the things that you say to yourself? What are the beliefs that you have around this? And it was wild to discover this thing that was kind of lurking, but not in my conscious awareness. And by calling it out, we then empower ourselves to shift it, to choose differently, to move out of it. But as long as it's invisible, or below our conscious awareness, we really don't have access to it. So by finally, I mean, this has been going on for weeks in some respect, and like this low lying, really under the current kind of agitation or discomfort or first, the word that came up first was dissatisfaction. And as I looked at that further, there was an acceptance of that dissatisfaction that really was more honestly resignation. And the resignation, or the resignation around the idea that um, that things aren't going to be the way I want them to be, or aren't the way I want them to be. And so what I noticed in the dynamic around resignation for me was going numb, just sort of disconnecting, dissociating, not being really present, not being really engaged, not being excited, for sure. And so by coming into awareness around this, recognizing the patterns that were associated with this underlying feeling, is lack of energy, lack of motivation, kind of an underlying sadness, feeling or saying things very quietly under the current, like it's just never going to work out, or I should have known that it wasn't going to be the way I wanted it to be. That kind of conversation, to admit to yourself, because it takes courage to recognize, oh my gosh, this is a program that's running in me that is really counter to everything I believe, or think I believe, or practice, right? And so anyway, when we get honest with ourselves and look at, well, what is that thing that is just sort of this low-lying, underlying hum that is ready and waiting to pounce at any moment of weakness, that allows it to express itself. And then in this exercise, we get to decide what we want to supplant that with. What rather than the resignation, what do I want? I want to be ecstatic. I want to be energized and excited about life. I want to be engaged with life, and being invincible, and manifesting my dreams, and knowing, of course, they're going to come into being. Lisa says, I was told by a frankly friend and white witch that I had an ideal that doesn't exist. Oops, Maggie just was walking on my keyboard, and all of a sudden, I lost you guys. Here you go. Okay, it took a that I had an ideal that doesn't exist. It took a long time to readjust my perspective, because if you set an ideal that doesn't exist, you're always going to be disappointed. Indeed, indeed. I agree, and I'm not so. It's very interesting to having that conversation right now when we talk about ideals that don't exist and resignation, right? Because when we give up on a vision, and that was the feeling, is like I felt kind of powerless. I was kind of giving up on, what was I thinking, kind of thing, or it's always going to be this way, kind of thing. um, that's resignation. Whereas we also have the opportunity to be looking at um, ways of thinking or being, or this ideal of perfection that isn't, that it's not um feasible in some way. Like I'm trying to think, like we hold ourselves up to these standards of perfection sometimes that are really kind of crazy standards. And they're it's not that they're like the standard of perfection, unless we recognize our imperfect perfection, and embrace that, and expecting that we're always going to do things right, or we're always going, that we're putting ourselves in all kinds of boxes. That's very different than than having the intention and creating the environment to be having the life of our dreams. So at least I think it's just such an interesting tightrope to walk with an ideal. Like I think this is another thought, is that oftentimes our ideals of things are part of a mechanism to avoid the thing itself. So if I have an ideal of what it would be like for me to play the piano, and I start trying to play the piano, and I'm not reaching my ideal, I can use the ideal as an excuse to not continue playing the piano, because I'll never be able to achieve that vision, right? And so certain ideals are excuses, I think. Like if we think of our ideal partner, and it's Prince Charming riding in on a white horse kind of thing, and I'm not saying that that's my ideal, I'm just using that as like a fairy tale kind of example. Then that's not life. That we are whole people. And if that's my ideal, then, and I measure all my potential partners against that ideal, then I can avoid the whole issue of relationship, because it doesn't exist, right? So um, however, that's different from resignation. To be it Resignation's kind of giving up. So make a pathway, Louise. Welcome, 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 Louise. Louise says, I had a serious RTA that put me in resignation. Now I'm over, confused with all the energy. I don't know what a RTA is, Louise. Can you share that with us? I don't know what that is. And and now you're confused with all the energy. I'm not sure. Tell us more so I can interact with you more about that, because I'm really curious. So, resignation, what I saw for me, resignation was a mechanism to to avoid sadness. Louise says so many options. Yes, there. Yes. So as we move out of resignation, there are all kinds of options as we get into engagement. But let me just finish what I was saying is that resignation, for me anyway, was a way to avoid sadness. I is like rather than, but it didn't avoid sadness really, because there was in the resignation, there was sort of a giving up, and in the giving up there was, in order to prevent the sadness, there was a dissociation and disengagement and separation and a numbness that happened. And um, that's not, I don't want to live being numb. I want to be engaged, and I want to be creating magic in my life in a very active way, rather than settling for this victim feeling of I can't have what I want, or it's always going to be this way, or here it is again, kind of thing. And so Louise says, I grew a beautiful motto before my accident, but now I'm confused if to continue or rest. Well, I wonder, Louise, if perhaps you can do both. Maybe you can continue and rest, and and do so in such a way that that is nurturing to you. So Louise says, I am a youth worker. So maybe it's super demanding. I don't know. Maybe that's what you're saying, is that you need to take some time to recover and rest. And yes, in harmony. Lisa says, I'd love to stay and listen, but I have an appointment. Have a great day. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to have you with us, and have a great day. Thank you for being here. And thank you to everybody else who's being here. So we're talking about these finding, we're not just talking about resignation, but resignation is what came up for me. What I encourage you to do is what I did, to kind of look deep in your heart and look at an emotional pattern. Look at an emotional pattern that is recurrent for you. And it can be one of these underlying low frequency hums that's kind of always there. Welcome, Diana. Welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about resignation as an insidious state of being, but also the pattern of underlying negative emotion that, when we recognize it, when we identify it, when we recognize the thoughts that go along with that emotion or that state of being, when we look at the dynamics and the way that we act out of that state of being, then we are exposing it and bringing it to conscious awareness. So then we have a greater choice about it. And we have a greater path to shifting that or redirecting that energy. And Louise says, I feel like Jesus and Buddha. Wow, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome to be present, to be in the path of life, that and present to it. So Elaine, responding to Louise, says these types of experiences are to draw you into yourself, to learn and get better at listening to your own body and mind and heart, your true knowing and wisdom within love. Within love. And welcome, Elaine. So can somebody please tell me what an RTA is? Because I don't know. I'm thinking it's something awakening. But I'm guessing that is that you're going through a massive transition, Louise, since your accident. And these awakenings. Oh, road traffic accident. Okay. So you had a big accident, it sounds like. I'm glad you're still here with us and on your path to healing. And it seems like it unlocked something for you with all this energy that you're talking about. And I think that it sounds like you moved out of a space of resignation, like feeling at the effect of, and I think really that's what resignation is feeling powerless, is feeling victim, is feeling at the effect. And it's so interesting to notice. We were talking this week about, traumatic brain injury. Okay, thank you for that. And I understand that shifts the whole experience of living, and you're really needing to recreate yourself and your way of being as a result of a traumatic brain injury. I have so much compassion for you in finding your way into the new patterns of life for yourself. And it sounds like because of that, you have a greater sensitivity to all of this energy. And I would encourage you to give yourself the grace of time and space and the exploration and the deliberateness with which you need to interact with life and circumstance and situation and even light and sound and language and movement. I'm delighted to hear that you've moved out of the resignation place. Resignation is an insidious way of being, place to be, because it reaches into so many areas. There's despair and depression and sadness that are part of it, or there's dissociation and separation or numbness or hopelessness. And for me, hope is probably one of the foundational aspects of my essential beingness. And as I'm speaking with you about this, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is because I wanted to explore the dynamic of it a little bit more. And what I recognize is that the resignation is a place of hopelessness in a certain regard. And for me, that hope is the wellspring of life, to believe that there's hope, to be hopeful is it takes courage. We've talked about this recently too. It takes courage to be hopeful. I read a wonderful quote about that. You know, that is essentially the light of the future, is to have the courage to face each day with hope. Um, and and that hope is the antidote, I think, to resignation. So Louise says it was a fatal accident too. Wow, I'm so sorry. So I have severe PTSD, but I have grown and always kept my hope. Wow, Elaine, I mean, Louise, I'm so sorry to hear that you're having such challenges. Um, for the PTSD, I don't know if you're familiar with tapping. There is a wonderful website. I believe it's renamed, but it was called the Tapping Solution. And it's a process that you can do for yourself that is really powerful in resetting the nervous system and releasing trauma and repatterning ourselves, that we can do for ourselves. And I think you might find it to be a really valuable tool. So I'm so sorry for the struggle that you've been through, and I um, honor you for your strength and your courage. And I'm sure that you have that respect and honor and love from all of us. So thank you for sharing so candidly, and to be always holding your hope. That's that's the key, I think, to life. And so Elaine says the brain can rewire itself as these experiences set us in a new direction. As always, you are not alone and are truly loved and guided at all times. All parts of the experience are important, are important parts of the transformation process. Trusting yourself. You've got you've got this, sweetheart. This speaks to your inner strength. And Louise says, yes, I've been introduced to tapping, but we'll follow that up. Yes, please do. Please do. And I also have done work with people with PTSD. And if you want to DM me, we can have a conversation. Okay, Louise? So, um, anyway, we've been talking about resignation and how insidious it is, and how hope is the antidote. And like true hope, true belief that things can change, and that we're not destined to the um, same cycles repeating, that we do have an opportunity to move out and beyond those cycles and those limitations. So I think I'm going to call it a morning. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, and for sharing so candidly your heart and your experience. You enrich my life profoundly, and I am so grateful to have this time with you on a daily basis, and on the weekdays. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And Maggie and I go live each weekday morning from at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we're on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. So please check out the other awesome programming on the Enlightened World channels. And until next time, lots and lots and lots of love and gratitude to you. Let's have a day filled with hope.